Hello everyone, I welcome you to my channel, and in this video I'm going to be discussing about reproductive system. So I'm going to be using some diagrams and structures to explain the various function of the different parts of the reproductive system. So I'm going to be starting with the male mammalian reproductive system. As you can see on the screen, the various parts of the male reproductive system. You can see the scrotum, the testis, the epididymis, the seminal vesicle, the prostate gland, the Cowper's gland, the vas deferens, and then you can also see the penis and the urethra. So I'm using these few important parts in explaining the various functions of the reproductive system in the male organism. So let's get started. I'm going to be starting with a very important part, which is the testicle. The testicle is just one of the glands, okay, the one of the male gland that help primarily to produce the spermatozoa and also help in the production of the male hormone, that's the testosterone. Okay, so the testis or the testicle basically help in the production of the sperm. So when the sperm is produced in the testicle, it will be taken to the epididymis. Okay, you can see the epididymis here. So taken to the epididymis, which will temporarily store the sperm, okay, until the sperm is mature, and then it will be transported. So when the sperm is mature, the sperm will then be taken from the epididymis, okay, through this vessel down to the penis or the urethra. But before then, the sperm will pass through the epididymis, okay, will be taken through the vas deferens and then to the seminal vesicle. So what is the function of the seminal vesicle? The seminal vesicle is just a small sac where sperms are stored. Okay, the sperm are stored there, and of course, it will also help to secrete seminal fluid. The seminal vesicle secretes seminal fluid, and the seminal fluid that is secreted contains fructose. So the fructose will provide energy for the sperm to be able to swim. Okay, so you then have the prostate gland. The prostate gland is another structure in the male organ that is is connected to the urethra through the several tubes, and basically the prostate gland will secrete seminal fluid that will help in activating the sperm. Okay, apart from that, you also have the Cowper's gland, just a little below the prostate gland. The Cowper's gland secretes seminal fluid too, and the seminal fluid in this case will help to increase the pH of the female reproductive system, which is usually acidic. Okay, it's so that the sperms will not be killed by the female reproductive medium. Okay, so I've not talked about something here which is very important also. That's the scrotum. The scrotum is actually a sac-like structure, and its function is basically to house the testes. Okay, so the sac is called the scrotum, or you call it scrotal sac. So, and they are found outside the body in order to provide a cooler environment or a cooler temperature than that of the body. So it helps to house the testes. Okay, so the next one I'm talking about is the vas deferens, or you call it the sperm duct. Like I said earlier, the vas deferens or the sperm duct is the one that carries the sperm from the epididymis. Okay, you can see carries from the epididymis. See what I'm highlighting, and then it takes it directly to the outside through the penis. Okay, so the vas deferens or the sperm duct is a narrow tube that leads from the epididymis to the seminal vesicle. I've talked about the seminal vesicle here, and of course, the next one I will be talking about is the urethra. Talking about the urethra. The urethra is here. And the urethra is a narrow tube that prolong into the penis. You can see it prolong into the penis. This is the urethra inside the penis. Okay, and usually it is called urinogenital organ. It is urinogenital in function. That's the right word, urinogenital in function. When we say urinogenital, it means it helps in both passing out urine and also in passing out the genital fluid, which is the sperm, okay, and introducing it into the vagina of the female. That's why it is called urinogenital. Okay, so then I talk about the penis. The penis is simply called an intromittent organ, and that means it helps in introducing sperm into the female reproductive organ, which is the vagina. Okay, so it usually contain spongy tissue that can be filled with blood. Okay, so when it becomes when it's filled with blood, it will become erect. Okay, become erect so that I can be able to, it will be that will enable penetration into the female reproductive organ. Okay, so those are the important parts of the male reproductive structure that have important function in reproduction. Talking about the testicle, the epididymis, the scrotum, seminal vesicle, prostate gland, the Cowper's gland, the vas deferens, and then the penis and the urethra. So let me move on to the female reproductive structure. Here you have the structure and then the various parts of the female reproductive system. Okay, I'm going to be talking about the ovary. The ovary is also a gland. Okay, so the ovary is a gland. This is the ovary here. It's a gland that helps in producing egg or ova or ovum. Okay, plural ova, singular ovum. Okay, so the egg produce ovum, and it does that every month. Okay, the female has 2 ovaries, and usually the egg will be produced like intermittently. Okay, one of the ovary produce this month, the next produce, the other one produce next month, and at times the 2 of them could produce. Okay, and when that happen and copulation takes place, the woman could then give birth to what you can call fraternal twins. Okay, non-identical twins. So in this case, the ovary produce egg, and once the egg is produced by the ovary, it will be released to the funnel shape structure. You can see the funnel shape structure of the funnel shape structure of the fallopian tube. So once the funnel shape structure of the fallopian tube take up the egg that is produced by the ovary, it will move down to the fallopian tube, okay, to this point. So the egg will remain here waiting for fertilization to take place. That means if copulation or the couple, if the female meets with a male organism at that particular time, then fertilization will occur, and fertilization actually occur at this point. Okay, this is where fertilization takes place. Fertilization occur at this point. Okay, so now when fertilization has taken place, the fertilized egg, which is now a zygote, will then begin to divide. Okay, we begin to divide through the process of mitosis, from 1 cell to form 2, from 2 cells to form 4, from 4 cells to form 8, from 8 to form 16, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the cell becomes a blastocyte, and it will now begin to move from this point to the uterus. Okay, it moves from this point to the uterus. This is where you have the uterus. Okay, and then that is where what you call implantation will take place. Implantation will take place at the uterus, or what you can call the womb. So the point of attachment of the embryo, is no longer a zygote now, it's now called an embryo. Okay, the point of attachment in this uterus or the womb will now be referred to as the placenta. Okay, the placenta will then give rise to the umbilical cord, which will serve as a channel through which materials will move or pass from the fetus to the mother. Okay, so apart from that, you also have the cervix. The cervix is just the is a ring of muscle with tiny aperture, and it closes the lower end of the uterus where the vagina where it joins the vagina. Okay, so the cervix is like an opening into the uterus, while the vagina is a muscular tube. Okay, the vagina is a muscular tube that basically leads from the uterus to the outside of the body, or yes, from the uterus to the outside of the body, and that it is usually called birth canal, and the penis is inserted into the vagina during mating. Okay, we call it birth canal because it is from that point that the baby will eventually come out from into the outside world. Okay, so let's move on to talk about. Okay, so before I move to the garment, this is the outer part of the female reproductive part. What you have here is just the internal view. Here is what you have here is the outer view showing the external part. Okay, now when we're talking about the male reproductive system, I said the male reproductive system, that's the penis. I said the penis or the urethra is called urinogenital. Okay, the penis is urogenital organ. Why? Because it helps to remove both urine and spermatozoa. But in the case of the female, they have different opening for urinary and different opening for birth canal. You can see for urinary, you can see for birth canal. So different opening for different purposes. Unlike in the male that you have the same opening um, in the male that you have the same opening for both function. The clitoris is also an important part of the female reproductive organ. It's a small sensitive organ which corresponds to the penis in the male, and just like in the male, it can also be erectile and become stiff when blood flows into it. Okay, by the way, the total external part of the female reproductive part is called vulva. Is called vulva. Okay, so let's move on to talk about the gamete now. I have the male gamete here, and this is referred to as a spermatozoa. It has basically four parts. The first part is the head, second part the middle piece, and the last part is the tail, or you call the flagellum. The first part, which is the head, is made up of the acrosome. Okay, made up of the acrosome, and then you have the nucleus, and then the centrole. Okay, so what is the function of the acrosome? The acrosome is located at the anterior end of the head, and it contains lytic enzyme. What's the function of the lytic enzyme? It's used to dissolve the egg membrane during fertilization. Okay, so that the egg membrane will be broken easily for the sperm to penetrate. Okay, so you also have the nucleus. The nucleus here contains the genetic material that will eventually unite with the nucleus of the egg in order for the egg in order for the both the genetic material of the male and female to mix together. And you also have the central, which take part in the cell division. Okay, that's in the meiotic cell division that the gamete undergo. Like I said, you also have the middle piece, which is full of mitochondria. As you know, mitochondria is a powerhouse of the cell. So when we say it's full of mitochondria, that means it helps to produce enough energy for the what? For the sperm to be able to swim. So it generates enough energy, which is used by the sperm to swim towards the egg. And then you have the tail. Okay, the tail, which is a long whip-like structure in the sperm, and it helps to move the sperm cell. Okay, so those are the various parts of the gamete, and you can be asked to draw this in your exam. You can be asked to state how the structure relate to its function. So it's quite important you get familiar with this. Then this is the female gamete. In the female gamete, you have the cytoplasm. Okay, you have the nucleus, you have the cortical granule, and then you have the corona radiata, you have the jelly coat. Okay, so as you know, this cytoplasm is just basically or simply the part of the cell where all the other organelles are suspended. All the organelles like the nucleus, like the cortical granule, in this case, where they are suspended. Okay, you also have mitochondria and others. So, but and then the nucleus, on the other hand, also contains genetic material which the nucleus of the sperm will unite with or join with once fertilization takes place, so that the genetic material of both organisms will mix together in order to form a new organism, which is a zygote. Okay, and then the cortical granule is another structure. It contains an enzyme, okay, that aids the detachment of the vitelline envelope. Okay, and it also undergo what you can call cortical reaction. The cortical reaction is a calcium-dependent exocytotic process in which the content of the secreted granule, that's the cortical granule, is released into the perivitillin space, and immediately that happens immediately after fertilization, and that will help to prevent what you call polyspermic fertilization. Polyspermic fertilization means after one egg has fertilized, after one sperm has fertilized the egg, another sperm also going on to fertilize the egg again. So that is what you call polyspermic fertilization, and that actually is a leading cause of what you can refer to as the death of the uh, fetus, okay, or the death of the fetus, or the death, embryo. Just even before you talk about fetus, the death of the embryo. So that means that the body of the female will reject such embryo that is formed. So, but the cortical granule contain enzyme and secretion that will help to prevent that, and it will do that by changing the structure of the egg once a particular sperm has fertilized the egg, so that another sperm does not penetrate to fertilize the egg. Then you have the corona radiata. Corona radiata basically corona radiata here basically contains protein that supplies the egg or the ovum with food or with nutrients. Okay, so you can see it's located in the outer portion of the egg, so it allows materials like nutrients to enter into the egg. And then you also have the jelly coat. The jelly coat prevent too many sperm from getting close to the egg at the same time, and it also contain protein that usually help in the and that actually help in the male reproductive part, which is the acrosome, to unite together with the egg. Okay, so basically the proteins in the jelly coat will initiate the acrosome reaction so in the sperm, so that they are ready to fertilize the egg. Okay, so that is basically about the reproductive uh, gamete of the female. And then let me quickly talk about the adaptive feature of a domestic fowl. When we talk about domestic fowl, we talk about the egg of a chicken or egg of other eh, or, chicken and all those other uh, birds. Okay, so what are the adaptive feature? They have a eggshell, they have the yolk, they have the albumen, or what you can call the egg white. Then you also have the amniotic fluid, you have the ear space, and then you have the chalaza. Okay, although the chalaza is not shown here, okay, but it's actually a structure that is this point is found somewhere here, okay, and which help to attach the yolk to the membrane. Okay, so let me quickly talk about those ones that are represented here. You have the shell, and that's the shell. Okay, you have the shell here. You also have the shell membrane here. Okay, so the shell basically is for gaseous exchange, and it provides shelter and protects the embryo against mechanical damage, while the shell membrane also provide a moist gaseous exchange for gaseous exchange surface for the cell, and also for protection. Then you have the yolk. Okay, you have the yolk. The yolk contains high level of protein and fat, and it basically provides food for embryonic growth. Okay, then you have the egg white, or what you can call the albumin, which also provides food, and then it consists of a protein, consists of water, consists of salt. You have the air space. You have the air space. Basically, the air space hold the yolk, okay, together, and it holds the yolk and the embryo in position. Okay, you have the chorion, which is the outer part of the yolk. Okay, so before I round off, let me quickly talk about sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Okay, in flowering plants, you have basically the male part of the plant, and then you also have the female part of the plant. The male part of the plant is referred to as the stamen. The female part is referred to as the pistil. Okay, the male part, which refers to as the stamen, consists of the anther, the pollen, and then the filament. Let me talk about each of them. First one is the anther. Okay, so as you can see in the structure, the anther basically contains the pollen. Okay, it houses the pollen grain, and the pollen grains, they are like the gametes. They are like the gametes. Then you have the filament. The filament is actually the structure that carries the anther. While in the female part, you have the stigma, okay, which will receive the pollen grain. The stigma receive the pollen grain. Okay, and then you have the style, which holds the which holds the stigma, and also serve as a passage between which are also serve as a passage between the stigma and the ovary. Okay, you have the ovary. The ovary encloses the ovule. Okay, you can see the ovule here. Okay, so the ovary covers the ovule, while the ovule encloses the egg. The eggs are inside the ovule. Okay, so those are the various parts, and then you can see this part, which is referred to as the sepal. The sepal is the outer layer of the flower, while the petal is a brightly colored part of the flower. Okay, so here you see the various parts that I've explained earlier. You can see the pollen grains, okay, the stamen, talking about the male reproductive part, the pistil, the female reproductive part. Okay, so this picture here just bring a closer look at those various parts of the reproductive part of the flower. Okay, thank you very much for joining me in this class. If you have any question, you can drop in the comment section, and I hope you also subscribe to this channel, and like and then share with your colleagues and friends in other schools so that they can also benefit. Thank you very much for joining me once again, and see you in the next video.